Namaste. So, what do we do when somebody departs whom we have loved and cherished? This is a question which keeps coming to us time and again, every time there is a loss event. And the problem is that while intellectually we know the answer, everybody knows, especially in the Indian context, we know that there is no death is an unreal reality. In the sense, at the deepest and highest level, there is no death because that person or the being, the true self never dies. In fact, Shri Krishna puts it very logically. If there is no such true self, if all is a creation of matter, then why worry and make a to-do about death? And if there is this immortal soul, then why worry and make a to-do about death? Because there is no real death. But yes, forms vanish. And people, when we are attached to the external forms and in an outer way, what is shocked by this is the sensory being in us, the sense mind. And most of us, our relations, unfortunately, are based on this sense mind basis. What is meant by the sense mind basis? Based on circumstances of our birth. So when we have grown up with somebody, or when we have been living with somebody for a long time, we get attached, but on the basis of the sense mind. No, it's very strange. Sometimes two people may live together for decades and be attached, but don't know about their inner life. It happens quite commonly in parents and children. Though child has grown up, child has also seen the parent grown up, but they don't know, they don't share that. They share an external life, but the bonding is so deep. So deep, I mean so strong, not deep but strong. In fact, very strong because it's rooted in matter. So first we must know that what is suffering is the senses. They miss seeing. So we try to, compensate it by going back to either memories where you can remember that image, that person, the time spent, the vital also, the time spent, the stock of memories. Or by looking at photographs or video film. That way the senses continue to find some nourishment. Till one day they understand that, well, he's gone, he's no more. So that time gap is taken care of by memories and through these photographs. And that's why we have the concept of memorial services. So memorial services are a way of reliving those memories, recreating those images, because senses is very difficult. If one is attached to a human being by the senses, they begin to suffer terribly. So first is to understand that it is the senses that suffer, and this knowledge should help us in reorienting our future life. Every time we have gone through this process, we must understand that we must, in future at least, learn to form relationships on a truer and lasting basis. And that truer and lasting basis is not the sense mind, but something deeper. Not even just vital enjoyments together. Often people remember, we used to sit here together and have tea. And one misses that, understandable. But if the deeper basis was something else, the basis of relationship was something deeper, something yet more profound, then that is always available. And that's why you'll see one of the highest forms of relationship is where one is united in an ideal, common ideal. And even if the person is gone, then what does the other person do? He takes up that ideal and begins to express it. The famous example, and you don't have to be spiritual for that. Look at Madame Curie. Her husband died working on finding a cure or working on X-rays. And he died, he didn't know, that they can cause cancer. She didn't waste her time, she took up that work and eventually gave this gift to the world. So we have countless examples of that kind where you are united in the ideal. Our perfect example is right here, Mother and Sri Aurobindo. And Mother says, without him I exist not. And what it must have meant when Sri Aurobindo withdrew into the background. But what did the mother do? Yes, 12 days, the whole place it went through. And then she came back to life with such a wonderful expansion. All her life was given to realize the truth and ideal of Sri Aurobindo and Sri Aurobindo. That's why she writes in her Reminiscences in 1954. Reminiscences will be short. I came to India to meet Sri Aurobindo. I continued to live here to be with Sri Aurobindo. And now if I continue to be here, it is to do his work of enlightening mankind so that the rule of divine love can be hastened upon earth. So this, when we live in that great ideal, we are never separated. Look at Krishna and Radha's life. She knew what Krishna is meant for, what is his work. And Radha was in the background, that you go, my love is always with you. So this is the highest form of relationship which can take place, which is completely independent of all our physicality, even of our vital, and to an extent even of the mind. So this senses and this vital suffers. We must understand. So what to do when it suffers? Now the mind tries to tell to the senses and the vital, it doesn't, because unless one has trained oneself, it will not happen. Over a period of time, the senses understand that it's gone. So that's how time is a healer. How can we expedite the process? So the process can be expedited by two means. One is by taking this departure as an opportunity to turn inwards, away from the field of the senses. If you remain in the field of the senses, and those memories hovering around, it is bound to create pain. So one of the simple ways that we suggest is that, well, when somebody has departed, if you want to stay in the same house, of course, people will stay in the same house. Rarely will you change. Change the setting. It is just the other way around of what people normally do. They'll put photographs with nice, to remind yourself, Rather, let the person go. He remains in the memory, in the heart, as a seed of love. But all these reminders, that should be, the whole setting must change. So that the senses now come to reorient. Otherwise they linger with the pain. Every time they see the same formation. And some people go to far extremes of even celebrating birthdays, especially younger deaths. Don't do that. Let him go. That birthday is no more relevant now. This is the real. So this is one way that the sensory mind should learn very fast. That's why one of the ways suggested is go out. So when people travel out, say after a month or so, or even 15 days, 20 days, when they travel to a place which is, let's say, a spiritual place with lovely vibrations, then when you go back, you are a different. For some time, there is an unlocking. Otherwise, the senses are hovering around. And because the senses are hovering around the person is also getting drawn. Because things don't cease with the death of the body. The vital continues to hover around. So it's a good idea to just shift for some time and then come back. Now, some people take this as very cruel. It's not about being cruel. On the contrary, it's good. It's the best thing to do for yourself and for the other person. Because if you keep dwelling in the memory and with hyper emotions, the person will be attracted back to the earth. Now imagine the situation of a person who has to go. Not only, he is bound to go. He cannot come back. By any means, he cannot come back. And yet he is being drawn. How painful it is. If one really loves, then one just lets go. Last act of love is to give that freedom. But since it is very difficult, so by doing this, you unlock. And I have seen people who just have shifted from the house, gone somewhere. After 1 month, they went back. And then they changed the whole thing. It's so beautiful. So, memories, keep the sweetest memories, pleasant memories, keep them inside. Memories are not about external objects that the person touched and everything. It will keep on drawing again and again. That can be done if somebody does it for the master, but not like in a normal relationship. It'll bring a lot of suffering and pain and draw the person closer. So that's why in Indian thought you burn the body and then you even do the asthi visarjan. In Buddhist thought, strangely and paradoxically, I have not understood why, because Buddha spoke so much about cutting all these bonds. You keep some pieces of the bone or something in a little stupa, which doesn't really make sense. It should not be, because if you do that, you are drawing through all these means. And not only you are drawing the person, sometimes the person goes away. But if the vital sheath remains, there are beings who can actually occupy this sheath, even start communicating with you. And if it's a benevolent being, it's still okay. If it's a harmful being coming in contact with you over years, and you feel it's my dad, it's my mom, it's my husband, it's my wife, it's a disaster. Because you have entered into relation with a being of the vital world. Because it's impossible for a soul which is transiting to linger long in that domain. Either the vital will dissolve in a natural course, or else it can be hastened. That's what shraddha was meant for. So this hastening should be done. Instead of binding the person, the sheaths must be dissolved. And that's why this puja, prayer, the mother has given us a very simple way. That 12 days or 4 days or 10 days, let people who really love concentrate their thought in a prayerful state to help him depart. And that's why the custom in India was of playing the Gita. It served two purposes. One was that it reminded us that sensory life is not the real life, turn within. That God is the object of love. So automatically we withdrew from the senses, turned toward the source. And because of the vibrations, all these vital forces which may come in that atmosphere, including the vital of the person who is departing, it would get automatically dissolved. I mean, I have had such interesting examples of this, including when my own parents departed, that how these forces hover in the atmosphere. I used to play the Gita every day in the evening for my father. I'll switch on the tape. There was a time when my mother departed, and I used to tell him, you listen to it, and he would listen. One day I forgot. Trust me, it was almost a spooky experience. At that time, the switch was pressed and the Gita started. Then I remembered, oh my God, I have forgotten. So I went. No one knows. My father was there, I was there, and our servant. We were all sitting together. We were only 3 people. Suddenly the Gita started. At the same time, I had actually forgotten. So then I said, okay, my mom probably is listening to the Gita. And I told her, yes, I'm glad. Listen to this and transit to the beyond. Send them with thoughts of love. You've lived a life which has been a beautiful life together. Why give them such a parting full of grief, and for what? Is this the only life we are meeting? If we love truly, if the basis of love has been something deep, we'll meet again. Our part in Satyavan and Savitri, look at those lines. Our parting was a dream. It's a dream. If we are meant to be with each other, we'll meet in lives after lives. And that especially happens when you share a common aspiration. Destined to meet. What is there? And if that was not the case, well, for some time, whatever grief is there, let the person go. Let him go peacefully. It's never a good thing to send off. In olden times in India, this used to be, I don't know, now also probably it is there. I can understand moms. But we used to sit in train. I remember going to Pune, FMC Pune for studies. And moms with all the road puris and, for 4 days to last, special puris and sabjis. And then the tears, ye nahi karna, wo nahi karna, be like this. And while one can understand this overflow of love, but sometimes it's like, it burdens you. Because you are looking forward to something beautiful. Instead, if go study well, do great things, this for you, and say a very happy, smiling face, bye-bye. I mean, it's especially in this scenario, you are going to come back. What is there? Now, this is a question of reorienting oneself. So, all farewells, I believe, should be beautiful farewells. Not bitter, not sad. Even when people decide to part ways, what is known as divorce, separation, it's kind of mini. Don't go through bitterness, calumny, throwing muck at each other. Part ways, okay. I mean, it's fine. People grow, evolve, and move on in different directions. There will be some pain. Keep that pain, offer it to the divine. But part ways gracefully. There is a way to part gracefully. There's a way to depart gracefully. Very few people know that. Even aging gracefully. It's so strange, people don't know that, well, at 80, 85, one day it's going to catch up. Prepare yourself for that beautiful transit. What is death after all? Sri Aurobindo says death is but a changing of our robes to wait in wedding garments at the eternal's gate. We are going to meet our Creator face to face. What a beautiful moment it is. Is anything worth it to hold us back when we have decided to meet? And when the work for which we came is over, why would one want to linger? Prolong. So, it is a question of attitudes which we must ingrain in ourselves, preferably from younger age. Especially in India, where you have rebirth. The person will come, maybe we'll meet together. And the joy of the unexpected. Why do we want to meet in the same name and form? Good, we'll meet in different names, different forms, once again rediscover. There's a joy of that. So, that joy of life and a higher purpose, a greater ideal. No relationship is never an end in itself. It is a means towards something still greater. Everything is a means, and so is relationship. So while one can understand the pain that comes when two people have lived long together, one must always remember that death is a transition and not an end. For the other person, it's a journey forward, not backward. So one should be happy about the other person whom one loves. For oneself, who is left behind, these memories tend to come. And as I said, there are some simple strategies. Turn these memories into mints of gold. That's why, as I said, memorial services, sometimes you can take out some people feel happy, take out a little book based on these. So it's like you are involved in doing things which are beautiful. Obviously, in a book, when one takes out book on somebody who has departed, one only brings out the beautiful elements. So ultimately, that's the essence that you get with you. And then, knowing this is the reality of life as of now, turn the awareness inward toward the source of all love, who is manifested in this way, that way, in 100 people, but who remains within us all the time. So this is how we should take the challenge of death when somebody, loved one, departed. And to concentrate on the person by, sending him off with love, peace. But it should not be, some people continue year after year. It doesn't really make sense. Because the person has actually gone far. Maybe it's a way of assuaging something within us that I didn't do something and I'm doing it. But it's not really needed. It's best to let the person go peacefully, happily, and continue with your goal peacefully, happily. And that is only possible when the goal was not just the family. It's very unfortunate that in the Indian setting especially, we make family the goal, especially women. Ask a man, now things are changing. He would say that my goal is this, that. Ask a woman, she will say, look after my family. Family is not the goal, it cannot be the goal. Discover your goal which is beyond the family. And then we'll see life blossoming. Namaste.